At Wind River Resort and Casino, we like to celebrate life's little moments. Oh, and the big ones too, because around here, when you're completely in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Come in and find your moment at Wind River Resort and Casino.
Well, happy Friday to you, everyone. I'm Chief Meteorologist Mike Krueger. Thank you so much. I can get that word out. For starting your day here. Coffee with Krueger. I got my coffee. Hope you got yours, or whatever it is you like to drink in the morning. Hey, are you getting ready to do some spring planting? Well, Axner Excavating has their 59th spring sale. Yeah, they've been doing this for a long time, folks. They got a lot of great supplies if you do want to do any kind of gardening or any kind of landscaping. You're getting ready for spring. So it starts at the end of the month and will last through Sunday, April 12th. They got a lot of great items for sale. So be sure to check it out at axnerexcavating.com. And you can get in on some great sales for the spring. And speaking of spring, happy first day of spring. That's today. This week has felt more like summer, actually, even though technically it's been winter. We are officially transitioning from winter to spring. I believe it's around 7:30 this morning. What was the official time? I had the official time in there. I forgot what it was. Vernal equinox 26, 7:46. So 7:46 this morning, we will officially transition from winter to spring. Pretty cool, right? We got a couple of comments coming in this morning as well on this first day of spring. We have got, I'm having a few technical issues this morning. Yeah, there she is. Saying, remember a while back I said we probably hit 93 or 94 degrees before spring? My prediction was right. Hey, I want to help you get more advertisers. DM me, please. Well, yeah, I'd love to get more advertisers. I will be sure to do that at the end of the show sometime today. I've got a lot of things going on today, but I'll see what I can do. Definitely love to get more advertisers. If you know of any businesses or you are a small business and you want to get in on the millions of viewers that I see every month, every few months, hey, be sure to give me a DM here on Facebook. You can also email me at mkrueger@weathernorcal.com. You can also just go to the contact section on the website and you can contact me there as well. But again, today is the first day of spring. Tanya was right. Yeah, you were talking about before spring, some low 90s. Although the hottest we saw this week was 92 degrees out at the Reading Airport. Certainly was a hot week any way you look at it. Curtis Brown checking in saying, good morning. Planting is done and been working on the vineyard for a few days. Well, good for you. Hope you're enjoying the beautiful flowers that may be kind of blooming up here a little early this season. Let's take a look at some of the highs that we did see yesterday. We broke a record at the Reading Airport. We broke a record in Red Bluff, not in Chico. We were a few degrees shy there, but for I think it was the third or fourth straight day in a row, Mount Shasta and Wairika have broken records yesterday as well, but didn't break a record in Eureka as expected. Nowhere near those records. Alturas was close. Just shy by 1 degree of that record of 80 set back in 1960. Here's a look at your Krueger's Quickcast for your Friday, March 20th. Yeah, we're getting ready for that first day of spring, and looks like we have some mild temperatures to start off the day. Looks like in the mid-50s for places like Reading and Red Bluff, but more like the low 60s for places like Corning. 34 in Alturas this morning. Out the door this morning as you're heading out, looks like we are going to see temperatures upper 50s for the valley with a few high clouds out there. For the north coast, patchy fog, temperatures mid-40s as well as Siskiyou County. Pretty cold up in Modoc County, still about 35 degrees for your overnight low, or your morning low right for today. All right, let's take a look at that ridge of high pressure that I've been talking about all week long, but we're beginning to see signs of that ridge of high pressure breaking down and shifting to the south and east, allowing our temperatures to drop a bit. Also want to mention, you'll notice a bit of a nuisance wind out there today for many areas. The coasts, mountains, even the valley seeing around 10 to even 20 miles per hour. And then for tonight, a little breezy, especially on the west side of the valley. So that's going to keep those temperatures up here overnight. Chances for rain, well, not looking all that great, right? For the valley at least. I'd say a bigger chance for places around the north coast around Tuesday, Wednesday, but we'll get into that in the deeper dive forecast here in just a bit. Temperatures, here's the thing, and I'm going to go ahead and just call out. I've been forecasting highs around 90 all week long. The only day we saw 90s in the valley was Monday. That was the only day. And what's interesting is last week, That's what it looked like. It looked like Monday was going to be the peak of the heat wave, and then we're just going to kind of moderate those temperatures through this week. But the forecast models this week, they seem to have a hard time, I think, with this unseasonably warm weather, because there were times it was showing 93, 94 for the highs this week, but only got up to 86, 87, and yesterday only about 88. So I shaved off yesterday the 92 to 93 that the models were showing, brought it down to 90, but still only about 88. Forecast models today are showing about 90, 91. I'm shaving off a degree or two and keeping it in the upper 80s for today. If we hit 90, it might happen, but I think for the most part, we're going to be the upper 80s. And then, of course, for the mountains, a lot of 80s in there, folks, and it's going to be pretty warm. I think we're going to see some more record-breaking heat, even for parts of the valley. Tonight, as mentioned, with those winds really kind of blowing tonight, it's going to keep those temperatures around 60, give or take, for the valley, and mostly 40s. Although places like El Tourist, that might be a little warm. You might get mid to upper 30s tonight. So here's your 7-day outlook. Mid-80s over the weekend. Here's the deal. You're talking about cooler weather this weekend. Yeah, a little bit. A slight drop in our temperatures. But I want you to think about the temperatures you saw, say, around Tuesday, Wednesday, even Thursday. That's when we saw highs around 86. Okay? That's about what we're going to be seeing here over the weekend. So if you thought it was hot this week, it's going to be pretty hot this weekend then too. But a more noticeable drop early next week. But here's the deal. It's still low 80s. We should be around 66, 67 for this time of the year, so still 10 to 15 degrees above normal. All right, take a look at the coast, and of course it's a lot cooler there, right? A chance for showers for the coast, Tuesday into Wednesday, as well as the inland areas, but I'm really taking those chances out for Trinity County, even Siskiyou. If you see a stray sprinkle Tuesday into Wednesday, don't be surprised, but don't count on it. It's just going to be, obviously, the bigger story here, those cooler temperatures for the mountains. Taking a look at Lake Oroville this morning, looks like we do have that spillway kind of going there this morning. Take a look at some of these images with you. Some Main Street Chico. Pardon me while I take a little boost of caffeine this morning with my coffee. There's Main Street Chico on Highway 32. Taking a look at Highway 99 at Neal Road. Yeah, beautiful sunrise shot there. Doesn't look like there's much traffic this morning. Not a bad commute. Out towards Highway 44 at Sundial Bridge Drive. Well, you know, of course, this camera, when Caltrans looks at it, it's in motion, but we don't get that luxury, at least with these cameras to the north, in Redding in particular. But still a beautiful sunrise there. You can see the silhouette of Lassen Peak off in the distance. Taking a look at Crescent City Harbor District this morning. Looks like, yeah, the camera's still going there. You have a couple of high clouds, but not much in the way of fog. Oh, I meant... We'll get that ready here. Bald Hill West here, looking at some trees. That's fun. I was going to show you the camera coming in from... Yeah, we'll get that going here. Let's get that going. Real thing. There we go. And there it is. This morning. Yeah, out in Trinidad this morning. Looks very nice. Beautiful, right? I mean, so some of those high clouds is going to make for a beautiful sunrise in that area as well. All right, let's take a look at Soda Ridge this morning. Also that beautiful sunrise, getting some beautiful colors coming in from some of the clouds that we do have out there this morning. Taking a look at Fort Jones, no fog, just looking at mainly clear skies, a couple of high clouds there off in the distance. And we're still watching that tree. You know, we're starting to see more and more of that tree every day. So we're just seeing more and more of that snow melt. You know, it's really hard to believe, and you don't think about it, but there's, you know, a decent amount of snow in some areas, and it's just melting every day. When that sun beating down on it, those warmer temperatures we've been experiencing, I tell you what, yeah, you definitely got that snow melt. And that is, just take note as we talk about that, if you're going to be out and about going on hikes and there's a creek or stream and you're getting warm, don't just jump in that water. It's very cold, and it's hypothermia cold, as a matter of fact. So let's be careful. And they're running pretty high because of all the snow melt. So there's probably going to be some dangerous flows, you know, with the rapids and the works. So just, you know, bear in mind, if you got little kiddos with you or your dogs or your pets, keep an eye on them. Make sure they don't get in that water and put themselves in a dangerous situation. Today is Friday. We got our Pet of the Week. Unfortunately, the Pet of the Week that they send me every week, I never got one last night or this morning, but I did take note that the Pet of the Week from last week is still on their website, so I'd only assume that the Pet of the Week from last week is still available. So this week, we're going to take another look at Koopa thanks to Grange Co-op and their sponsorship of Pet of the Week. So let's take a look at Koopa.
Hi, this is Maisie with Haven Humane Society in Anderson, and this is our Pet of the Week, Koopa. If you've ever woken up in the morning and thought, wow, nothing would make my life better than a big old bowling ball who loves you more than anything on the planet, I really think you should come on down and check out Koopa. He is a 2-year-old, 70-pound pit bull mix, and he has one of the biggest mouths I have ever seen on a dog before. He is very reminiscent of a toad in brain size and in looks. He is so loving and cuddly and tolerant of really anything we ever want to do to him. He is learning though. He is a work in progress. He just has such joy and excitement upon meeting new people. So we are working hard on teaching him not to jump on people. He's working really hard on his leash skills. You know, he just gets really excited to go out to the play yard, so he's working on the pulling. He knows sit, and he's incredibly treat and toy motivated. He's responding really well to clicker training, and he seems playful with other dogs. We don't know how he does with cats or kids, but we would probably recommend older kids as he is working on his manners. His adoption fee is $75, so if you are just looking for a big hunk of love who will fill your car, your clothes, and your life with drool, come on by and check out Koopa.
Once again, I want to thank Grange Co-op for sponsoring Pet of the Week and Animal Family segment in general. We are, of course, appreciative of all of our sponsors, including our friends over at Wind River Resort and Casino, who have been sponsoring Coffee with Krueger since day one. At Wind River Resort and Casino, you can enjoy friendly service, a wide variety of specials and promotions, plus all of your favorite slots and table games. Let's take a look at those weather headlines. Happy first day of spring, all. Of course, it's not here yet. We're still officially in winter. It's 7:46 this morning when we officially transition from winter to spring. Gradual cooling trend into next week. Still hot, though, over the weekend. It's still going to be 10 to 15 degrees above normal even next week. So, yes, it is cooling off. We're going to be steering away from those upper 80s and low 90s, but it's still going to be unseasonably warm even as we are going into spring. Chance for showers? Sure, it's in the forecast, but I wouldn't count on much when we're talking about that forecast here. Let's take a look at our deeper dive forecast, shall we? We'll get you right into it. And we're going to start off by taking a look at the seasons. You know, we're talking about the first day of spring. So why do we have seasons, and what is the vernal equinox? Why do we have the astronomical springs? Well, here's the reason why we have the seasons. Number one, the Earth, it rotates on an axis, right? It spins on an axis, actually. But it spins on an axis that's tilted at 23.5 degrees. That is key to the reason why we have seasons. All right, so as it spins on its axis at 23.5 degrees, it then rotates around the sun, right? So throughout the year, and of course it rotates, it revolves around the sun in a year's time. So different times of the year, we get the different seasons because of the tilt of the axis. So here's where we are, March 19th through the 21st. Okay, so basically, the tilt is pointed right at you. So everywhere on the Earth is seeing the same amount of daylight. Approximately, you know, there are a few variations here and there, but approximately 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of nighttime. Okay? But if we were tilted this way, now say the northern hemisphere would have a longer day, but shorter day down to the south. Well, let's talk about that in a little bit more detail as we get closer to the summer solstice, because that's what we're going to be going into. But vernal equinox, first day of spring, we will officially transition into that as we go into 7:46 this morning. All right, so again, it's the Earth's axis. It's tilted neither toward or away from the sun, so that's why all of the Earth is seeing approximately the same amount of daylight in the same amount of hours. All right, so fun little explanation about the first day of spring, what it means, and the scientific explanation behind that. Temperatures are kind of varying anywhere from about 54 degrees for Redding, Corning about 63, 55 degrees out in Chico. We are above freezing, but barely, for Alturas at 34, 39 degrees for Wairika, and mid-40s right now for you along the coast. I've been talking about it. I've been mentioning it every single day. I'm actually quite tired of mentioning it, but ridge of high pressure. There it is. That ridge of high pressure has been centered over Southern California and the desert Southwest in general, and it's that dome of high pressure that's been giving us the above normal temperatures this week. But I also want to mention the winds. The winds are going to be a little more of a nuisance as we go into the next several days. 10, 15, even 20 miles per hour at times, off and on today, tomorrow, Sunday, especially in the valley and the coast on Sunday. And then on Monday, we actually see the winds die down a little bit, but still 15 miles per hour, give or take, for the valley and for the coast, and maybe a little bit stronger off to the east. So yeah, a little off and on with those winds a little bit here. And it's worth mentioning, but I don't want you to be alarmed because I'm pulling out the fire graphics already, but I am. And I just wanted to really illustrate that, when I've been looking at these maps over the last several weeks and months, it's been a lot of green on the map indicating just a low risk for fires, right? Although we have seen some in the weeks past, right? So we're starting to see that begin to happen. So the fuels, there are some fuels out there, but we're not at the max or the peak where we have a lot of fuels out there, right? But with the prolonged period of dry weather that we've seen, with the low humidity levels that we're going to be seeing as well with those northerly winds, I mean, this is percentages. This is relative humidity that you're seeing here for places like Redding, Red Bluff, Chico, and Willows. And you see, even in some of the higher elevations, it's low humidity. But again, keep in mind, there are not a ton of fuels out there. So we're not looking at high to even extremely high fire danger, but as we go into Saturday too, we're seeing yellows in here. That puts us in that low to moderate category. Again, it's low. It's nothing to be terribly alarmed about, but it is something I have my eyes on, and we're going to be watching those fuels here because as we see more and more of these long, warm days and more of these northerly breezes, I mean, it doesn't have to be a wind event for us to dry things out. Even a north wind of 10 to 15 miles per hour can be enough to really start to suck out all that moisture from a lot of the fuels and the ground and, within the soils as well. So we're in that process of things drying out. That being said, we still have snow melt, and so up in the mountains it's not as much of a concern either. So again, just wanted to kind of point that out, something we're watching. But there you can see we do have that ridge of high pressure down to the southeast of us. This is really where it's been all week long. We talk about that dome of high pressure, right? So the center, the top of the dome here, that's where you have the thickest atmosphere or the biggest part of the dome. That's where we're going to have the hottest temperatures. And then on the outer fringes of the dome, so my dome is right, the dome is my fingers and arms. So over here, you're looking at lower, it's not as thick, and so as a result, temperature is not as hot. So we've been looking at hotter temperatures down to the south, especially over the desert Southwest. You've been probably hearing about some of the records that have been broken, some of the first triple-digit heat temperatures that we've seen on record for parts of Arizona. I know that was certainly something that was mentioned yesterday, and we're still seeing that dome of high pressure over the desert Southwest. But again, it's expanding into our region, and that's why we've seen these above normal temperatures and even some record-breaking temperatures. That is moving on out, though. It's moving down to the south and east. So instead of a nice dome, now we're kind of flattening out that dome. As we flatten out that dome, those temperatures do begin to drop, but you'll notice the cooler air is really steering clear of us. We still have a high pressure that's fairly persistent, so it's preventing this from really moving down and dropping our temperatures down significantly. And on top of that, if we can get a nice little trough to move on in, that might also increase our chances for rain. But it just doesn't look very promising for rain. And it doesn't look very promising for a big drop in our temperatures, but a big enough drop that at least we're going to be steering away from the upper 80s and low 90s for the valley through next week, but still very warm nonetheless. So again, there's that ridge of high pressure. I want to point out that there is a storm system developing and moving in our direction as we speak. So by Monday of next week, it'll still be well off to our west. Now, it looks pretty good, right? If we could get this thing to just move eastward and maintain its strength, it'd be nice. We get some rainfall out of it, but that does not give me the case. We got the trough low pressure right here, colder air, warm, moist air. This is coming together and will mainly focus its energy over the Pacific Northwest and Canada. We're going to get the tail end of that, and you see that? Typical. This is the main thing we always talk about with these types of systems. They move through the Pacific Northwest. You see the rain, you see the snow, the mountains, right? The tail end of that is weak, much weaker. So it tends to bring most of the rain to the north coast. And sometimes it's decent rain, a quarter to a half an inch of rainfall, but then it just breaks apart and fizzles out once it hits that coastal range. So places like Del Norte, northern Humboldt, parts of western Siskiyou County get in on it as well. And sometimes Trinity County can get in on it as well, but still most of it is in Del Norte, northern Humboldt. Then that's gone. By Thursday, Friday, you're looking at dry conditions again, but probably still at least a few high clouds out there. So looking at the rainfall estimates, it might be overdoing it. Blue is about a half of an inch of rainfall. That might be overdoing it. I'd say at most a quarter of an inch to maybe a little over 3/10 of an inch of rainfall. But you see how it just quickly drops off as you get into the inland areas, western Siskiyou County, only a few hundredths of an inch of rainfall, and then quickly drops off to a whole lot of nothing, right? Once you do get into Trinity County, the valley, and east of that as well. So that's where most of the rain should be as we go into Tuesday and Wednesday. Now, beyond that, as we look at early April, what the Climate Prediction Center has done is taken us out of the drier than normal category, and even for Southern California, it's in the lowest category. Now, keep in mind, even though it's saying drier, it's saying, listen, this is going to be, there's a chance we could maybe see some rainfall for parts of Northern California early April, but not enough to really have a big impact. All right, so we could see a little bit of wet weather toward the beginning of April, but that's still a long way out. No guarantees on that, but that's a good sign. When we can break away from a lot of those yellows and browns over us, that means that at least we can see a chance for a little bit of wet weather at the very least. And there you can see still looking at warmer than normal conditions. That's no big surprise. We look at the 10-day outlook and yeah, a slight dip. Temperatures we've been experiencing most of the week in the valley, still over the weekend. Right? But then we go to around 80, give or take, through all of next week and even into that next weekend too. So yes, it's a drop, but look at the normal high, 66. That's where we should be for this time of the year. Wouldn't that be nice? Doesn't look like that's going to happen. We're going to stay around 80 degrees for most of it's in the valley, upper 70s. Lake levels, yeah, we can't complain about the lake levels. They're looking good. But again, we have to remember a majority of the rain for Shasta Lake, a majority of the water that goes into the lake is actually from runoff from rain, but not necessarily from snowmelt. So that's not much of a concern here. But we still have many reservoirs that do get some of that from snowmelt, and a lot of the snow has been melting. And we're probably going to see that snowmelt a lot sooner than we typically do see. But the lake levels are still looking very healthy nonetheless. There you can see the wave heights are pretty low today, but by tomorrow they are going to increase. And as a result, there actually is a small craft advisory for tomorrow into Sunday morning. Otherwise, you're looking at winds today from the north at 10 to 15 knots. There's a look at your waves and your sunrise and sunset for today. All right, take a look at your neighborhood forecast. Sponsored in part by Dignity Health. Trinity County, still upper 70s and low 80s for your daytime highs. We take you out to the north coast, and there's that chance for showers Tuesday and even into Wednesday, but otherwise dry. We take you up north, 67 for Klamath, 74 degrees out in Orleans, 79 degrees in Hoopa, and that chance for showers Tuesday and Wednesday. Take you out to Siskiyou County. Temperatures are going to be in the 70s, even around 80 degrees out towards Fort Jones, 78 degrees in Etna. No rain in the forecast for you, just cooler as we go into next week. Modoc County, you're looking at temperatures in the low 80s and looks like in the mid to upper 60s for Wednesday and Thursday. In Eastern Mountains, you've got temperatures in the low 80s as well, 79 degrees for Mineral, 85 out in Paradise. Hey, let's take a look at that forecast for the valley. 83, that is way off. The computer has been having some issues. There's a program I use called Quick Editor. I go into Quick Editor and I generate a forecast and it goes out to all my maps. That Quick Editor has been acting up. In fact, I've been trying to get in touch with customer support. We're going to see if we can fix that. Not 83 for Corning. All right. So it's going to be more like, say, 88, 89. I don't know what happened there. 89 degrees for Los Molinos, 89 degrees out of Chico, 87 out towards Oroville. Here's your 7-day forecast for Chico. Mid-80s for Saturday, Sunday, low 80s by Monday through Thursday. I will take you up to the north, 89 degrees for Redding, 88 for Red Bluff, 89 degrees out in Palisadro, and we're looking about 86 degrees out in Lakehead. All right, here's your 7-day forecast for Redding. Mid-80s for your daytime highs over the weekend, so not much of a drop in our temperatures actually. And then we'll kind of just average it out around 80 degrees for Monday through Thursday of next week. So there you have it. There's a look at your forecast. Got someone asking, well, hopefully I answered your question by the time you had asked this question here. But we got Alex saying, when is the next rain predicted? Well, if you watched my forecast, it's predicted Tuesday into Wednesday, but mainly just for the North Coast. Everyone else should remain dry. I am seeing other indications down the line as we go into early April that we might start seeing some changes in overall pattern to a cooler and maybe a slightly wetter pattern. But I'm not putting all my eggs in that basket just yet because that's not even close to guaranteed. That's still a long way out. We're going into early April, and that's still, a couple weeks out. So we got to really bear that in mind when we kind of talk about that. But that's kind of the answer to your question about that. First day of spring is today, 7:46 this morning is when we officially transition from winter to spring. So get out there and enjoy. Go out and celebrate. First day of spring, and it's going to still feel more like summer, though, with those upper 80s for those daytime highs. What are you going to do? Are you going to get out there and enjoy this nice weather? I've been out there. It's been a little warm. My son has a track meet tomorrow out at Shasta College. I'm very excited to kind of check that out. It's going to be warm, though, so I'm going to make sure I've got the sunscreen. I'm going to make sure I hydrate. I'm going to see if I can maybe bring an umbrella, too, for the shade. It'd be nice to kind of get some of that shade as well. Yeah, so just be prepared, stay hydrated, do what you got to do. And remember, too, if you're out hiking and you're by a creek or a stream, do note that those creeks and streams are running faster than usual and colder than usual because we've got a lot of that snow melt now, and that's going to keep those temperatures down in that water. Hypothermic is what we're talking about here with that water. So please be very careful. You can dip your toes in there and get that numb feeling from that cold water, but that would probably be the extent of it, at least for me. So let's be careful out there. And if you're not by a creek or a stream, stay hydrated, drink plenty of water, and of course, wear that sunscreen as well. So thank you all so much for watching this morning. And I hope you all have yourselves a great first day of spring. I hope you have yourselves a great weekend because it's going to be the weekend. I mean, who doesn't love the weekend, right? I know I'm looking forward to it, get a couple of days off. Have yourselves a great rest of your day. And by the way, remember, even though I'm not here on the weekends, you can still check out Chase Wilson. He's been doing weather for us within, 6 to 8 months after starting Weather NorCal. He came on board. He's doing a great job. He's doing a really good job. I think he's a very reliable forecaster, meteorologist, and I think he's doing a fantastic job. So check him out throughout the weekend. He gives you updates 3 times a day, 6 a.m., noon, and 6 p.m., just like me during the week. So check him out over the weekend for the latest on the forecast. In the meantime, have a great rest of your day and have yourselves a great weekend.